you everyone for joining our next Investor Spotlight podcast. Today we have special guest Shalynn Spitz of Columbus, Nebraska. She is a real estate agent and an investor of 3 years and has some great stories to share with us today. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing well. Staying safe, staying indoors.
Yeah, as much as possible, right?
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background and what got you into real estate investing.
Well, it started about 3.5 years ago when my husband and I have no history in real estate at all, neither do our families. But he called me one morning at 6 o'clock and said, "Hey, Shay, I think I want to get into real estate investing." I said, "Okay."
At 6 in the morning?
At 6 in the morning, he was on his way to work and he heard this podcast. And he's like, there's a seminar going on in Omaha. I think we should go. It's a free seminar. I'm like, okay. So I actually started contacting different realtors, local realtors, meeting with lenders, and just kind of getting my foot in the door and just kind of figuring this stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went to the seminar, and then that led to another 3-day event, which led to even more. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with getting to know everybody, meeting new people, and just kind of masterminding with everybody and realizing that I have the same mindset as they do. Mm-hmm. And I knew that where I was at that point in time, if I didn't make a change, I was never going to get where I wanted to be.
Mm. So this was an avenue of growth for you.
Very much so. Very much so. And that's why I love real estate, is because it's a never ending career. And there's so many possibilities out there, from agent to investor to, you name it, you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it.
Yeah. And even in the investment world, there's so many different kinds of investments. It could be rentals or flips. It could be syndications or notes, or, you can get really creative in that space.
Yeah.
So what did your first experience look like with investing? Was it a flip? Was it a rental? How did it go? How did it happen?
It was a flip. I actually sent out a postcard. It was just a house down the road because I noticed it was winter, or it was winter, and I noticed that no vehicles were going in and out of this driveway anymore. And it was a house that needed a lot of work. And I sent them a letter. I said, "Hey, we're interested in purchasing your property. Let us know. Give us a call." Well, that was on a Thursday. They called us Saturday. We went and looked at it, and we made an offer the next day. It was accepted by Monday. So it happened very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a nightmare, as I think anybody who's gotten into investing, their first maybe several are nightmares. But we tried to take on a lot of the projects ourselves. Never again will I do that. We did hire a lot out, but and fortunately we didn't go under. I mean, we still made a profit, but it was not worth the headache, the stress, the time we put into it. But we learned a lot. And just like every other person out there, you learn from your mistakes, and that's what helps you grow. So
absolutely. That's how you get better. You don't know till you're out there. And I think that's a good point that you brought up, that a lot of people start with flips because you make a good gain on it. But a lot of people don't realize, okay, you need a budget to have contractors come and do stuff, because just because you think you can paint really well doesn't mean you can do everything else in the house that needs to be done. Yeah. And I think we get excited and we're like, yeah, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to do it. And, and then like you mentioned, you're like, oh, wait, this is a little bit, a little bit too much. So that's a good point.
I know. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that meme out there with Johanna and Chip Gaines, and it says HGTV, expectation versus reality. And then it has this picture of friends yelling pivot. But anyway, that's how it felt with my husband and I, especially when we were trying to put up the hand railing. Oh, and just getting everything no.
Wow.
We were yelling, yeah, no. But we're still together, so it's fine.
Y'all worked it out. So, so that was an experience, but thank goodness you still, made a profit. You didn't go under. What about the next couple of investments? What did you learn from it, and how did you approach those differently?
So the way I approach them differently is I budgeted to where somebody else is going to do everything. I'm not going to try and make it work. And that's another thing. When you're getting into real estate investing, don't try to make it work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, or change your exit strategy. But, that's when I went in there, I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. This is what it's going to cost. This is our budget. I have a contractor walk through and give us an overall for everything. And then we just tell them to go, because basically if you're working in your flips and whatever it is, you're not working on it. So you can't work to grow. So that's the other important part of it all and the important piece of it all. And just changing your mindset to that. You want to work on your business, not in it.
So it's better to facilitate,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can do more and more and more instead of all
Correct.
this time that it would take to just focus
Yes.
on one flip at a time if you're doing it yourself. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was kind of the biggest change for me. And then just managing those people during the flips and stuff. I mean, that was the biggest part, is the biggest change. And then also, getting into this, on your first property with taxes wise, it's not a huge deal. There's a lot of different ways to defer your taxes, but really when you're doing a flip, if it's a short-term investment, there are what's called capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a new thing for me. I had no idea what that meant. I had heard the word before, but I had no idea what it meant or anything like that.
Yeah. So what does it mean for those of us who are listening or maybe a little bit newer and don't know what is a capital gain on a flip? What does that mean?
So it depends on the tax bracket that you're in and stuff, but basically you have to pay a lot more in taxes on the gains that you profit from that flip. So if you bought a house for $50,000 and you put $25,000 into it, and so you're invested $75,000, and then you turn around and sell it for $125,000. Well, your profit is $50,000, and you have to pay a capital gains on that as a requirement by the IRS. And it kind of depends on your tax bracket, but I think it can range anywhere from like 20 to 30 some percent. Don't quote me on that by any means, but it's very significant, And so that makes a big difference in your tax planning, because you end up having to pay in more money and stuff like that. And if you don't do a 1031 exchange, which many people don't realize, that you actually have to open a 1031 exchange with your title company in order. It's not just, okay, well, I click the money and I'll just hold that aside. No, it actually has to be held in a trust account by somebody else. And then you have 45 days to locate your next property, and then you have 180 days to close on it. So there's a lot of milestones when it comes to a 1031 exchange. So you kind of need it, or you need to know what you're doing.
And for those who don't know what a 1031 exchange is, what is a 1031 exchange?
So a 1031 exchange just helps you be able to defer your taxes further down the road. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have to pay the taxes. It just kind of depends on your situation. But basically, you can take the proceeds. So let's go back to that. My first example: if you have $50,000 in profit, you could put that into your 1031 exchange, and then you have to you have to locate another property within the next 45 days. But you have to keep in mind it has to be similar property to what you just sold.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be the same amount that you sold it for or more. So it's not the same amount that you profited. It's the $125,000 of what you sold it. So it has to be at that amount or more.
Right.
On your next property that you have to purchase, which a lot of people get confused about that because they think that they just need to buy something the same amount that they profited or more, but it's actually what you sold that property for. And so it's just you just kind of build it. And that's why at some point in time, most people end up having to either pay taxes because you can only go up so much in a location, in an area, but there's other ways that people can get creative with it all. But so the 1031 exchange just defers you paying taxes on that gain.
Okay. So when we think about taxes, whenever we're doing flips and making profits, what other strategies are out there to help people? Because you said, you can get creative with it. What kind of ways can people save on taxes? Because I think a lot of people look at their profit and they may not take off for those taxes. And then that could be a reason why they actually didn't end up making a profit after all.
Yeah.
What can people do?
So, it depends on, a lot of people buy rentals. So that's why you see a lot of people buying cash flow properties where you buy and hold. And that's going to be your biggest, because it kind of offsets the amount that you made on those gains in your personal tax return. Taxes is a whole different language to me, but it's really important now that I'm getting into this more to know what taxes are about, what things mean, and the importance of educating yourself on it as much as you don't like it. I listened to a podcast from Gary Keller, who owns Keller Williams. And, as much as you don't like financing, it is the key to your success and the key to your business. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your return on investment. But ways to offset the gains and stuff, from your flips, a lot of people get into rentals, and that's why you see people just buying rentals all the time and holding them, because it does generate cash flow, but it also offsets the profits that you gain from your flip.
So then it is good for people to have a mix
Yeah.
of flips and rentals. And we see a lot of people doing that now. But we didn't know one of the reasons may have been because of taxes.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. I mean, so we just recently started getting into rentals, and we have 2 now in our portfolio. But I mean, we just did that within the last 4 months. So that's something that I want to be able to grow, is a portfolio of rentals, and to generate that cash flow. And eventually, I mean, obviously they'll get paid off at some point in time, and then we'll just keep up with them and then continue to get them in. And I hire a property manager to handle those, because I don't have time as a real estate agent to manage those rentals either. I don't have time to do background
Same as
checks.
with the flips, you'll be stuck doing that instead of growing.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't have time for that. That's not what I enjoy doing. So it's important for me to leverage other people who are better at that. And it's okay not to be great at everything. We have our areas that we're really good at, and we have areas that we're okay at, but we need to kind of figure out what it is that we're good at, what we like, and what we don't like, and what we're not good at, and leverage that to other people.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We don't have to be wearing all the hats here.
No.
You do what you do best, and let other people do what they do best.
Exactly.
We're all different, and we're all unique.
Yep.
You mentioned, flips and rentals, and a lot of people, they go and they say, oh, this is a great deal because this purchase price is really low. But how do you really determine which property should be a flip or a rental?
Yeah, so that's kind of your exit strategy. It depends on your numbers. You can usually buy a rental property for a little bit more than what you can buy a flip for, because there's a lot less things that can go wrong in a rental when you're kind of just fixing it up. Whereas with a flip, there's a lot more expenses that come in with permits and stuff like that. And it usually holds longer, and you have closing costs, purchasing, when you purchase the property and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then if you refinance, you obviously have bank fees and stuff. So you can usually purchase a rental for a lot more. So it kind of depends on the situation and how your numbers work. I mean, if it's something that the general idea of a rental is the 1% rule. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. There's a lot more that goes into that than just the 1% rule. I mean, whether or not the renter or the landlord is paying utilities, trash, all of those things. But generally, the idea of a rental is, if you buy a house for $100,000, you need to be able to rent it for $100,000 or for $1,000 a month. 100%. So that's the general idea of it all. And then obviously, I mean, if you can purchase it a little bit cheaper and still get that amount in rent, it's even better for the cash flow. But most people will have a mortgage on that rental, because you want to be able to leverage your money by putting 20% down. It's better to put, if you have $100,000, it's better to put 20% down on 5 different properties than it would be to pay cash for a property. Yeah. So, because I get a lot of people like, why don't you just buy that with cash? You don't have to worry about it. Okay, but then I can't leverage. It's 1 property or 5. You tell me what's better.
Right.
And people don't realize that, but
make your money work for you.
Exactly.
That's what I've always been told.
Yep. Make your money work for you. It's not working harder, it's working smarter.
Absolutely. That's definitely great advice. So for those that are out there that may be new to investing, or they're just thinking about getting started, what's like the biggest tip or a bit of advice that you could give to someone?
Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because in order to grow, you have to do something you've never done. And that's something that I've learned not only in the flipping world, the rental world, but also as an agent and personally. Honestly, I find myself, if I am fearful of doing something, that means I need to do it, because it's going to help me grow. If I stray away from it, then I'm just staying where I'm at. So that's kind of my key, or that's like my trigger. Like, am I worried about doing that? If so, why? And I need to figure out a way that's going to push me to get to that point, because it's awkward. When you're trying to go to somebody and you're trying to buy these properties for 60% market value, my idea is like, why would anybody do that? But you need to find the drive as to why that person wants to sell. And you want it to make a win-win. You don't want to take advantage of anybody, but you also need to make sure it works for you. Communication is key. Honesty is key. And those are two things you need to know in real estate and basically customer service, is that you need to be open and honest and communicate with everyone so they know what's going on and everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And if you're honest and it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least you're doing your piece and you're communicating the right information.
Yeah.
Instead of, hiding information or doing something that's not going to benefit both parties.
Yeah. So like I just had a listing that I've had for quite a while. And I know it's worth what we had it listed for, but we were just having a hard time getting it sold. We had renters in there. So when everybody wanted to see it, the renters didn't want to show it and stuff like that. But, and finally I threw them an offer significantly below what they were asking. And I said, this is all I can offer. This is what makes sense for me, because I was even pushing it at that. And I said, don't feel obligated to take it at all. And they took it. And I was like, shoot.
Worked out. Yeah. You got to just put it out there. You got to take risks. You got to put it out there. Like you said, sometimes you have to do things that feel uncomfortable to you. That's how we grow. If you're not doing things in your life that make you feel a little weird and a little uncomfortable, you're probably not growing.
Exactly.
If you just stay in your comfort zone, in your comfort bubble, you're going to be looking back 10 years, 20 years, and you're not going to have any growth at all. So
yeah. And one thing that I noticed with a lot of people, I hear so many people talk about what they want to do. This is what they want to do. Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do this. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing?
Go do it.
I know. And they're like, well, I'm just so busy, or I don't have the money. I don't have the time. You do.
Excuses.
You will. Yeah. Just
if you want it to happen, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah. All your excuses are lies. That's a lie. It is. You'll make time if you have that desire.
And that's probably the hardest part about being a real estate investor, is you get trapped in your own mind. And you really have to change your mindset whenever you start going down the negative spiral or the I can't do that. You got to look for the solutions. How can I do this?
Yes.
I want to buy a rental property, but I don't have any money, so I can't do it. No, I want to buy a rental property. I don't have any money. What can I do to get money to buy it?
Yeah.
And then then your brain automatically starts thinking, oh, maybe I can find a partner. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. You just have to change your mindset and all the answers will come to you.
Yeah, I know. And that's what a lot of people think. They're like, oh, how do Shay and Adam have, $150,000 cash to be able to purchase these properties? Okay, well, we don't. We have all these people like talking like, oh, they're so young. How do they have that money? We don't.
Use other people's money.
Yeah, that's what you do. And that's the brilliant part with real estate, is you can utilize other people's money without having anything in it by still making a bunch of money, So that's
making money for both parties.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it just works out. It's a win-win-win. You want to make sure that everything is a win-win for everybody. You don't want to take advantage of anybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. The real estate community is I think really great too, because everyone's always willing to share information and share tips and share advice. So I think if you're someone who is new, just getting out there and meeting people and networking, you'll find that you'll get a lot of answers and a lot of help to a lot of questions that you have.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to be starting a networking group here in Columbus. There surprisingly is not one. I've had to travel to Omaha and Lincoln, which is about an hour and a half drive for me. It's not real feasible because I do have 3 kids, and getting home at 10:30 at night is not ideal and stuff like that. So starting one here in Columbus I just talked to somebody yesterday, and that's our goal, is we're going to just start a mastermind networking group here in town for mainly small business owners. And that's kind of the route we want to go.
That's awesome. And so you also have a website. It's called Providing Property Solutions. Is that correct?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the website and what it's for, and why people would go to it.
So we created the website, one, because online marketing is a huge aspect. I mean, people don't take you seriously unless they can get online and type in here and make sure that you have a website. Yeah. I mean, even if it's not the greatest, even if it's a pretty cheap website, but it is important because that's what people do, especially with social media. You want to make sure that you have a page for it. You want to make sure that you have a page on Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I think it's a big thing, but it's just important to have that social media, that online
presence.
Appearance, the presence. Yes. And but basically what we do is we have people who can go there. If you want to be a private money lender and get an interest back on your money, if you're looking for a place to invest your money, we are very conservative when we are purchasing this property. So we have a bigger risk than any of our private money lenders and stuff like that. That's why we have a lot of people who have went for our properties. So private money lenders can go there. We also I've had somebody reach out to me about a week and a half ago through our website, sent us an email saying that he was interested in selling his property, and was wondering if we could take a look at it. Now, the benefit of me also being an agent is I can go there and I can give him a couple different options. I can say, hey, I can buy it from you as is. Here's the price. Obviously it's going to be at a much lower price, but they don't have to do anything. They don't need to worry about paying a commission, anything like that. Or I can let them know, okay, we could go that route, or we could sell it at market value. But, you also take the risk of it staying on the market a little bit longer, especially with everything that's going on right now. And then commission, of course, which not a big deal. But anyway, so what had happened is I'm going to end up listing it. But it's a win-win for everybody. And so and then also for people to kind of go onto our website and kind of check out what we've done. I don't keep up with the website as much as I do with the social media, so it's kind of lagging. But I try to put on the properties we've done, the before, the afters, testimonials and stuff like that. So.
Well, so if someone is looking to sell their property, it definitely makes sense to me is to go to someone who, wears two hats, so they can look at the investor side of it and then the agency side of it, and give them those options and see what works best for that person. Do you just keep to Columbus, Nebraska, or is it open to all of Nebraska? What's the range that people could contact you?
So we've kind of gone about 45 minutes outside of outside of Columbus, but the grand scheme of things, our ultimate goal, because obviously you want to step outside your comfort zone, is to get, hour and a half, 2 hours, and ideally eventually get outside the state, because there's different communities out there where it's a little bit easier, I guess, and you have a little bit larger margin when it comes to flipping, where Columbus, our margin is not as big as like LA, New York, stuff like that. But our ultimate goal is to be outside the state. And it's not a money thing. It's almost like a game. It's okay. What can I do?
How can you do next?
How
can you grow?
That's just what it is.
What's the next step? What's the next thing? Yeah, like you mentioned, it's always evolving.
Yeah, so it's fun, and so that is our ultimate goal.
Awesome. And what is the web address if people want to go onto the website?
So you can go to www.providingpropertysolutions.com, and you can check out our website. Again, it's not the most update, but we got it up and going.
Yeah, it's effective.
Yep, it is.
Awesome.
It is. We've had a few people reach out to us, several people reach out to us that way. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the real estate community before we end?
No, I just say, it's a mindset. Believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, you can do it. They always say those who think they can, those who think they can't are usually right. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining today.
Thank you, Crystal. Have a good day.
You too.